On the Spectrum 9, Soul Immortal, and Vicky and myself. We're gonna be talking entering manhood. So join us. Log in, all that good stuff. We'll switch up the music.
Sometimes unbalanced, and you back with all that has to be.
In there.
I hope you back, baby. Lean on me, and together we can come to slow me see.
Good evening and welcome everyone coming in.
And so unsafe as you. And I'll tell you now.
Well, hello everyone. Moms. Hi moms. Hopefully this will make you feel better about your furniture.
Yes, I tell you now that I made a vow. I'm giving you the best that I got.
So, what up, man?
Hey, Soul.
Everybody's got opinions of the way they think our story's going. Some folks feel it's just a superficial thrill. Everybody's gonna have to think again. With love so strong.
We'll be getting started in about 2 minutes, everyone.
They don't bother me, so I'm gonna keep on.
Anaya says, good to see y'all. Thank you, Anaya. Oh, I see Simon. Hey, Simon.
Said I'm gonna keep on giving you the best that I got. Listen, baby, somebody understands you.
But you know, one thing that's gonna suck about YouTube, we might not be able to play all our awesome songs.
Say it again.
We may not be able to play all of our awesome songs.
Oh, at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah,
might, get like a copyright.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get our own. We'll have to make our own music then. Ty, what up, homie?
Welcome, Ty. Welcome, Stephanie. Thank you guys for joining.
And I made a vow, so I'm telling you, I'm giving you the best that I got. Listen, baby, I bet everything on my wedding ring.
All right, guys, we're getting started in about 30 seconds. Grab your water or your wine. Get settled in.
Does Soul drink? He don't drink, does he?
I haven't seen Soul drink lately. He used to.
So you have some wine.
But see, Soul over there getting, swollen fine. So I don't know. Maybe he don't drink no more. Maybe we're the only heathens on this show tonight.
Kind of a bad influence. It's all right. Yeah.
And Simon, we're doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well. Keith, welcome. All right, Boo, I think we can get started.
All right. Dang, we cut off Anita. I'm sorry.
All right.
Let's do it.
We need it. We need all the time. All right, lovies. Good evening. Welcome back. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're on episode 9, you guys. Episode 9 of On the Spectrum. And tonight we're going to be talking about Entering Manhood Part 1. right.
Yep.
This will be a two-part series, and I'm so excited to welcome back our friend Soul Immortal. You guys previously saw him on the episode The Purpose Driven Man.
Yep.
If you haven't had a chance to watch that, definitely go back to Abdul's page, check that episode out. So many gems were dropped that night. It was unbelievable.
Yep.
And so, just like The Purpose Driven Man, this topic of entering manhood is very important to me because I feel that the Black community as a whole are in chaos and confused. And when we don't have an organized structure in our community, not only in the household, but this affects the community at large. So I feel it's very important to have these discussions, to dive into the whys and really just kind of unearth some shit about what we deal with in our community so we can start the process of healing and moving forward in a positive way.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay?
I agree.
So
no, I'm in agreement. I think it's, I say about maybe 3-4 years ago, I kind of I went through my own process of needing to figure out my place, who I was, how I functioned, why I functioned the way I did. And it sparked a lot inside myself to try to understand men at a higher level enough to where I can kind of give that back to younger men and men in general to help them kind of find their way. So very passionate about this myself. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
absolutely. And as always, we fully understand that one conversation on one night is not enough to change the world or change everyone's ideology, but we always hope that each conversation just plays a small part on the path of healing and making us all better.
Right.
So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring in our special guest for the night. And we're going to get this conversation started because we got a lot of questions, a lot of heavy things to dive into.
There he is.
What's going on, brother? What's going on, V?
The man,
Welcome
the myth.
back. Thank you.
What's going on, man? Look, hey, I know I've been meaning to link up with you because I am in Dallas. It's just it's gonna take a minute.
Man.
We've been training, so.
Bro, I know, man. It's been hectic, man. But shoot, if you get time, I'm here, bro.
We're gonna make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Bet.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us again. Part 1 of Entering Manhood. We really appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank y'all for having me. Like I said, I love the show. I'm a fan of the show. I'm tuning in every week. I'm honored to be on it. You know what I'm saying? So thank y'all.
We love you, brother.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to dive right into it. Tying into the introduction I made, talking about the confused, broken Black man. In your opinion, what factors do you think contribute to the modern day confused and broken Black man?
This is going to sound like a cliche answer, and this is really the easiest answer to go to. It's easy for me to say slavery, right? And it's easy for me to say, due to the fact that, we were enslaved, that it caused all this. But you really have to dig deeper when you bring that up, right? And here recently, maybe a week or so ago, I brought up an example. I said, think about, a Black slave man, living in his hut with his family, and someone has the ability to come and take that man's wife and have his way with her and bring her back. Like, think about the psychological effect that's going to have, right?
Yeah.
And I tied that to, I kind of went through the chains of children seeing that and going through generations. And now we have men that feel like they have to have, a rotation of women. A lot of that is stemmed from things that we saw several generations ago, But at the same time, to use slavery, even though it's affected the Black man, at the same time, it's almost a scapegoat because I can remember, like what the 80s were, what the early 90s were. And we were coming out of that. Like Black love was a thing, Black people loving Black people. I'm telling you, a lot of times I explain what the world was like to younger guys, and it makes no sense to them. I said, bro, picture a world where you could go to a party and dance. You don't have to worry about anybody fighting, anybody shooting. I said, think about us, young black teenagers. Instead of pants sagging and go, all this what we're seeing now, brothers wearing medallions, brothers networking, and they're like in their mind, they're like, I can't see that. So I would say, a lot of it at this day and age is not as much as slavery. It's more of just leadership and having an example. You
Yeah.
know, I was watching something, I was reading something rather. It's been a long time ago, but it was saying that I want to say 70 or 72% of black children grow up in single parent households, right?
Right.
Right.
Which means roughly half of that is going to be black males, right? and,
Hmm.
and and I can see how that's affected us. I can see. I remember even when my son was younger, I could go to a playground and I could tell the young men that had fathers in their life, even the
Right.
young kids. I'm talking about 4, 5, 6, 7, because they had a certain amount of assertiveness. They had a certain amount of leadership skills, or just a certain masculine energy about themselves. Um, so a lot of that has contributed to why we're broken. It's just like a lot of men aren't present. I
Yeah.
like what Abdul is doing, man. He's reaching out to helping young brothers outside of himself. That's
Right.
what it's going to take more of.
Absolutely.
I go to my son's school and go to certain events, and man, I'm not gonna lie, it looks like a Mary Kay convention sometimes. Sometimes I'm the only male, and most times I'm definitely the only black male. And I'm
Right.
telling you that speaks volumes to why we are where we are right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all brothers have is television and rap videos to tell us what manhood is and how we're supposed to move. So it's a lot of things tied to why we are where we are.
Right. I agree.
Hmm.
And I will, to kind of pose a differing opinion, right? I
Mhm.
did read a study in Science Mag once that talked about an epigenetic explanation, right? Which basically talked about trauma being passed down biologically from, your elders onto your seed.
Mhm.
Which again, not to stray into giving it an excuse as to why we are
Mhm.
the way we are, but there is something to say for slavery as it being trauma passed down genetically all the way to kind of where we are now, right? And I don't, again, I'm not trying to create excuses, but it is something to look at to kind of
Mhm.
explain where we're at. But I'm with you. Of course, I was born in '83, and I grew up in the
Mhm.
early '90s, which was probably one of my favorite
Yeah,
times. Which had the best music. I'm gonna challenge anybody out
yeah,
there. The best
yeah.
music. But,
No, yeah.
I do remember the times where we could go to parties, hang out, and there wasn't a concern about being shot. Of course, we grew up in those hoods, in those neighborhoods where that
Mhm.
was present,
So,
but there was still an opportunity for brothers to get together. Of course, kind of the era and the time I grew up, the Nation of Islam got kind of big and grew at that time
mhm.
where you didn't call your brother, your friend a nigga. I ain't call you a nigga. It was,
Yeah,
what's up,
yeah,
brother? How you doing, brother?
yeah.
How you doing, king? How you doing, God? Like that's kind of was the salutation at that time. So that was kind of the era I grew up in. So I'm kind of with you on that in that time
Mhm.
frame.
It's a different culture, man.
It was definitely a different culture. And I don't say, I think that we're kind of getting back to that now a little bit. I see, I definitely see, especially the young brothers saluting our sisters that way as well, right? Queen, calling them queen. How you doing? We're kind of getting away from
Mhm.
that terminology, but
Mhm.
it's a slow process. We're getting back there.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I am so happy about.
Yes, of course you are.
Even like women addressing each other
Mhm.
as the B word.
Right,
Y'all know, you could ask Derek. I've never liked to call women that, and I don't even associate with women who address me that way. So
right.
I'm like, what is this?
Mhm.
But going back into it, and you started touching on it a little bit. So
Mhm.
how has single motherhood affected the development of today's black male? And what would you say, like, the behavioral changes that you've noticed over the past, let's say, 2 generations?
Well, it's huge because I mean you're taking half of what a young man should be seeing in a household, and you're completely removing it. So
Mhm.
really what we're doing is we're expecting young men to conduct themselves in a manner that they've never seen. So when we see these young guys come through the household, teenage, and become young adults, a lot of these guys are having traits of their mother. A lot of these guys are having mentalities and the assertiveness of their mother. A lot of these guys are, are too heavy on the feminine energy side, And the
Yes.
thing is, this is what's weird about it. Like a lot of it, straddles the fence. A lot of it is tied to a homosexuality, but in a lot of cases, it's not. Again, it's a lot of men just perform, acting out what they've seen,
Mm.
And that's what I said. Like I said earlier, like I can see when I see young kids on a playground, even older kids in an environment, you can tell the ones that were raised around me just by their mannerisms
Mm.
opposed to the
Yeah.
ones that were in single mother households. So it's huge. It's huge. So it's carrying on to what relationships look like. We have these single mothers, you have these men growing to be adults, and they're getting into relationships and marriages. Again, we're asking young men to perform a way to do a certain thing that they have no idea what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the things that now again I'll talk about inside of the program that I talked about in doing some research. There were some rites of passages that are indigenous cultures where they had something called a separation from the mother, right? It was a part of the process. Inside of the process, as an example, they had the children be in the home, all of the men, the head men inside of let's call it the village, they would walk in with black masks, right, into the home where the mother is and literally go through this process of separating the child from the mother. And it's a painful process, but it's a needed process to get the man away from the woman, from his mother specifically, to kind of teach him how to, deal with his pain on his own, in a sense, right? And those rites of passages are something that I feel like we need to get back to, the whole ideology and creating the program. But
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. It's needed to kind of separate the young boy from the mother, in a sense, and give him opportunity to feel his pain, feel what he's going through, and show him how to deal with that pain and what it is to talk to him about.
You know what? There's a study, and I'm sure y'all might know more about it than I know, but I know between the ages of 1 and 7, it's like a child is in complete absorbent mode. You know what I mean? It's like they're not really thinking for themselves. They're just looking at who they are. I think that if a man is in his son's life between 1 and 7 and completely falls off the face of the earth, I think that's better than him kind of coming in after the fact, trying to tap in every once in a while. Because I can think about I think about like my father passed when I was 12, 13, and I'm telling you, man, he taught me everything I needed to know. Even though he wasn't there between 13 and 21, it was like I was already prepared. So I think that if most men are aware of that they'll spend more time at least in those first years, man.
Right.
Mm.
I'm 100% in
I
agreement
love
with
that.
Yep.
So reading some of these comments, Ross Naya says the black male has been stepping away from his responsibilities. Daniel's son said only a man can teach a young man to grow into a man. Night 23 says right is the passage total, bring the man out of boyhood. And then Kamagavia, sorry if I butchered that, says preach, Brother Foster.
All right. I would like to read a question. Rabia, hey Rabia, how you doing? She posed a question to us. She said, how important is mentoring on how can young black men be mentored by older black men? That was a really good question. So you think you can answer that?
Well, I think one thing is, I think a lot of younger black men don't know that a lot of older brothers are open to it. It's like we're here for it. I got like man, I'll talk to guys kind of in the street or at the store, and it's like they love that, man. So I think that there's just a barrier of, I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's pseudo masculine. I don't know what it is, but there's something that they don't feel like they can come to us. But I'm telling you, I can remember when I was 16, 17, 21 years old, brother, I was yearning for that. I would see brothers, cutting grass in my neighborhood, and man, I would go over there and talk to them. Just be in that energy.
Right.
Now, I wasn't presenting it as that, but that's really what it was on a subconscious level. Like, you know what? And even in my early 20s, man, there was a young brother that I met in the military, and And even though he was a year or two younger than me, I looked at him as a mentor.
Yeah.
And then I would go over his house on the weekends, and we became friends. And looking back on it years later, it was just because he had so much of this energy that I wanted to absorb, man. So,
Right.
so young brothers are wanting this energy, but they need to understand that us as older brothers now, like we're here for them, man.
Right.
You know, so we need to just drop that veil somehow.
Let me add to that. You're 100% right. I think there's a need for us older men to get into that energy, to get into that space, right? Once you're in that space, it kind of invites that type of questioning. It invites that type of inquiry, right, from young people. But to add to it, I do believe that there's power in numbers, right? I do think that me talking with you, talking with another old elder black man, once that's seen across the spectrum for us, I think it becomes easier for young men to want to be a part of it. It's like, damn, like not only is my uncle in it, but my dad's in it, and my cousin, and my homeboy from down the street, and everybody's in it. Well, let me see what this is about. Let me go over and see what they're doing, you know. And that alone in and of itself kind of brings that curiosity for these young men to want to be a part of it. So definitely with what you said, along with power in numbers.
Most definitely, bro.
Yep.
Most definitely.
I love that. So this question may upset some ladies that are viewing, but I do feel it's very important to talk about it. So can you speak on single mothers raising son husbands?
That is heavy. That's heavy, and that's a very touchy subject, right? Now, first off, I think we have to observe or acknowledge that it's robbing a child of his childhood, from fully experiencing his childhood. Now, this is, on surface level, this is how I observed this for several years. Because I've seen this. I always thought when I saw women that placed their sons in this husband role, and I always thought that was a woman that was just, she had tapped out. She was lonely. She didn't have it, so she's reached the closest male to her, and whether it was conscious or subconscious, put him in this role, right? And but it's deeper than that. It is deeper than, you have to get to the root cause of that, and it goes back to the Proverbs 5 woman. You have to understand why is a woman doing that? Like, why is she putting a man in this role? And the Proverbs 5 woman, you have to understand what she wants from a man. She doesn't want love from a man. She doesn't want all these things you would think. She strictly wants his essence. So really what these women are doing is sinister. It's very disturbing. They're putting, I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna keep it 100. You can see some young men, and it's common now, some young men that walk around society, I'm talking about teenagers, young adults, and they're drones. They look like they really have no soul. You know what I'm saying? I see that's common in these young guys now. These guys are being stripped of their essence. So these women are putting them in this position, again, like it might be on a subconscious level, to bring them out, to get them to tap into their essence as a man, and then rob them of it. So then when they're 20, 21 years old, they have no clue what's going on. They're soulless. I know a lot of young men that I've seen in early stages of their life, and they were just energetic, and you can see them again now, 18, 21, 25. I mean, they're like mummies, man. So in my opinion, on the surface level, I think a lot of women are like, you know what, there are no men, and I want to put this man in this role, for whatever reason. My mind can't attach to that. But on a deeper level, it's a spiritual theme. It's something spiritual happening. And if you read about Proverbs 5 woman, I mean, it breaks it down how, what she's attacking in a man. And when you look at the end result from the guys that are being put in this situation, that's what's happening. They're being robbed of their essence. They're being robbed of their soul. Not only that, it disturbs them from when they go out and now they're trying to create families. They can't attach to that. They can't attach to that because it doesn't make sense. They're like, if Tommy was in that role, then how does that play with someone I'm in? It just doesn't make sense to them. So that's where you get the asexuals and all this stuff. It's like, it's confusion.
Right. And I will say this, not every young boy gets put in a position, and it is common. Not every young boy gets put in a position to where they have to become son husbands, right?
Oh no, yeah.
But I have seen, and this is true of daughters and sons, where they at some point become responsible for their parents' feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to start raising their own parents at some point.
True.
So somewhat similar to what you're speaking of, but I have seen that. I witnessed it, and that's important to kind of curb that behavior as well, right? We tend to kind of have our emotions as parents
Mm-hmm.
and let them get out of control, and then it's up to the child at that point to be responsible for whatever's going on with the parent. So I'm in agreement with you there.
And on another page, you have to think about when a woman, because I've experienced this, when a woman puts a son in that position, and to be honest, a lot of women put their sons in that position at a very young age and
Right.
kind of develop them. But where the problem comes in is now when this woman wants to bring a man into her life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
now that son is confused. He's like, oh, well, that's my role. Like I'm 12 years old and I'm the head of the household. So now you tell me a man is coming in and telling me what to do. It's like, man, everything is off balance. You can't discipline a kid like that because he doesn't understand.
Right.
He's looking at his mom like, there's a lot of kids that don't even want their mom to date, and it's like a lot of that is tied to it,
Right.
Absolutely.
Some's drawing me to speak on this, and hopefully it can kind of help a young man out there kind of see some similarities here. When I was 10, some stuff happened. My father had to leave the home, right? He told me when I was 10 years old, "You're the man of the house now," right? I'm 37 now. I can't see telling my son that, so I can recognize the mistake that my father made in that regard. But as I grew into being the man of the house at 10 years old, when I got to be about 15, 16, 17, I as I self-reflected, I kind of started to see myself being and butting heads with my mother in some regards because I was the man of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she got another man, when she got a boyfriend, right, and her husband, at a point, it was like, it was a challenge there, right? It was this is my space, kind of what are you doing coming into it? So I can definitely see what you're talking about because I was one of those young men who struggled with, this is my space, right?
Yeah.
Because I was given that responsibility from my father.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, man.
The thing is, something I've noticed in our community, we don't really know how to, I guess, bring it up, or it's like everyone's too afraid to speak to another woman about it.
Mm.
Honestly, and I'll be honest, myself included, it's like, how do I approach this woman, even though we're cool, but how do I approach her and just be like, I think the relationship you have with him is very inappropriate.
Well,
He's like, he won't even go live his life now.
Right.
He's at a point where he won't even go live his life. He gave up a job opportunity out of state. He gave up a particular scholarship, all kind of stuff, just to be here with you, and you let him give that up.
Right.
You're right.
It is taboo to, for lack of better terms, to get inside of somebody else's home, right? To go into a space where you're not there all the time.
Right.
But I've come to realize that the mob mentality kind of works. I hate to say it, but if we approach these situations, go back to the old saying, it takes a village. Like, I kind of feel like that was true. I kind of feel like that was right. And if it's gonna happen at some point, if we're gonna progress, maybe having those conversations that are very uncomfortable need to take place. Again, within, be as respectable as possible. But for the most part, I do feel like it takes a village, and we might need to start having those conversations.
Man, that's very true.
Right. Absolutely. So last episode, we spoke on certain things that young men can implement to begin a healing and realignment process in their life, right? And I'm referring to the Purpose-Driven Man episode, for those of you in the chat who haven't seen it. Some of the things we talked about were fasting. We talked about seeing your intention. We talked about starting to read like more introspective books. So let's say the young man has completed these steps and now he's asking, okay, what's next? What would your advice be for him?
I would say at this point in his life or of his journey, right, it's time now, like, to take action. Just like you have a sowing season and a reaping season, it's like now it's the season to take action. So once a man comes out of that, whether it's retention, whether it's whatever he used, whatever vice he used to find that center, to find self. Once he does find that self, now it's time to start moving toward purpose. Now it's time to start establishing hierarchy, because I'm telling you, hierarchy is huge. I always talk about it as far as a family unit, like a man should be tied to the source, and things fall below. But even for a man that's not in a relationship, he still has to establish hierarchy. At some point in time, a man, like when a young man is still looking, to his parents for guidance, you know, at some point, they have to fall below him, and he ties to the source. And now what his parents are teaching him falls below him. Now, his buddies that are talking to him on Fridays and Saturday night, that he considers equally on a spiritual level. Now even their input toward him need to fall below. So to me, hierarchy is crucial. I think once a man goes through that healing stage, or whatever you want to call it, finding self, he needs to start moving toward purpose and establish his hierarchy.
I agree.
Like that's gonna put everything in place.
I agree. Well, if I may, I kind of feel like this is what I try to put together to fill that void, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a man has kind of felt like he's done all he can. Well, we'll say young boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of research that's kind of been put into understanding how young boys transition into men, where they're at, where men go, where young men go, the whole nine. And that's kind of where I came up with the HIM program. We need rites of passage, right?
Mm.
It was pretty easy for our indigenous people at our point in time to say, hey, when you hit 12, 13, 14, you're going to go through this process. After you're done with that process, you now return back to your tribe, your village, and here's your place, right? Now you know what your place is. Essentially, that was the purpose behind the HIM program. So I would say finding a way to get into these rites of passage. If you don't know, then obviously, and I'm going to start putting this stuff out there, but the HIM program is one of them. It stands for Honor, Intellect, Masculinity. The majority of it is creating a safe space, creating a process, and of course having elders. So Soul mentioned having a hierarchy, right? So if you find yourself in this position of, for lack of better terms, conquering life, having success in life, your responsibility now is to go back and to teach the youth, right? To go back to teach the young men. In what I pieced together, there's a lot of allegorical points to it. I've incorporated stories to where, because I feel like stories are very part of our culture, or who we are as people. They tell our stories. They get us to the next point, right? So I've incorporated a lot of that into the program. So to answer that question, what's next? It's like you mentioned, the hierarchy. It's becoming an elder. Once you finish all these processes, now it's going back to help your village. So I'm with you on that.
Man, that program you put together, man, I'm telling you, that's huge, brother. And you tapped on some things that you see for the future, man. And it's like, man, we need more of that. I can't wait to that whole thing. I want to be a part of that if I can, brother.
Well, again, so, and I'll just be completely transparent with it. I'm looking for 10 men, right? I have 7 right now. And I'm going to be honest, I already included you, so that's 7. So,
I'm there, bro.
Perfect. I
can serve, brother.
I agree. I've needed 10 men. And the objective here is to find these 10 men, put us as a whole through this entire process. There's no way you can teach it to anybody younger if you haven't gone through it yourself. So I want us to go through this whole process. After we go through this whole process, now we go grab these young men and we bring them into the process. And now it just kind of creates this cycle, right? It's kind of like, you started here, you come back, and you just kind of stay in the cycle of teaching these young men until you pass. Now we have this process that's here to help us throughout the ages that nobody can take from us. It's ours. So,
man, that is game changing, brother.
I agree.
I love it, man.
I agree. But we're gonna talk about it.
Okay.
So Night 23 asks, how do you think we can combat society from pushing against our goal of helping young men move into true manhood? There is so much pushback from media and society.
I would say by trying to remove the sources of contamination, right? Like a lot of things, like kind of going back to music. Like Abdul said, back in the 90s, music was different. If we want to tell young men that, hey man, certain things are contaminated, certain movies, certain this, then we have to replace it with something. You know what I'm saying? So you know, I guess maybe showing more love to artists that are putting out positive images, maybe talking about more, you know, more positive movies. But you have to understand this too. A lot of those young guys, even though they're moving at a certain vibration, they're still watching us. Like a part
Yeah.
of them is still watching us and saying, you know what, my future self is going to move like that. And a lot of times when they look up at us, we're still moving reckless. So
Right.
we're really co-signing what they're doing. Man, I'm telling you what bothers me. It bothers me when I see brothers get on YouTube and for no reason just create beef with each other. I'm like, man, 30 and 40 years old. Like what are y'all
Yes.
doing?
Thanks.
I mean,
Why?
when young brothers see that, we giving them the green light to have static. So you know, man, they're watching us. So I think to correct it, we have to slowly start eliminating the sources of contamination, and then start being examples ourselves.
Right. Right. I think,
Absolutely.
I think the one thing we need to do, somebody wrote it in there. I saw it. They said they need to
Mm.
unplug. I 100% agree. I
Yeah,
think we need to start, like Soul said, becoming examples of what it's like to fast, but not just
mm.
fast from food, but fast from technology and get ourselves in nature, right?
Yes.
Once you're in nature, every answer you need is there.
Yeah,
Everything is
Mhm.
applicable when it comes to nature. If you're not sure how to make your business work, get
hmm
in nature. I promise you, something's going to show up
yeah,
and show you, oh, this makes sense. Like I can do
yeah.
this. So I think you're right. We need to start becoming examples of what it means to unplug. How do we get
Mm.
ourselves away from this technology for a minute and let's go get ourselves in nature? Let's go to a degree. Let's go become survivalists, right?
Yeah,
How do we just live off the
Mhm.
land for a week? Let's just start
yeah.
there, just for a week, right? This a group of men grab some young boys, let's go get together and survive for a week, and we'll come back and we
Man,
can handle everything when we get there. I
that
think
would change everything about a man.
I
It'll
agree.
change everything about him.
I agree.
Yeah, man.
One of the pieces to the rites of passage that
Mm.
I've looked at in research was uh, when you get yourself to a point, right? Let's say we took young boys out there and we put them out somewhere, and I know this sounds scary to some people, but we let them survive for 3 days.
Mm.
Hey, you're here in this plot of land. We're going to make sure no animals can come in or whatever, but you're going to survive here on this plot of land for 3 days by yourselves, right? There's something about getting to that point of surviving, borderline death, where it's like, I can make it. If I can make it out here, there's nothing that can come in my way. And I can lead a family, I can lead a business
Yeah.
if I need to. It doesn't matter what happens. I think there's something about that we need to kind of look back into. We've, to a degree, coddled our children to not let
Mm.
them survive, not give
Mm.
them the opportunity to win. I think we need to get back to that. So let's, of course, do it in a structured way to where we're not harming them too bad, but get them in a position of surviving, of saying, I got all the skills I need. Me and my creator, we have all the power to take care of what we need to. I think if we can
Man,
start
that's
doing those
heavy,
things,
bro.
we'll be okay.
That man, I'm telling you, that's heavy as hell. Because like when V was saying earlier, like, you know, what do you think is causing? I'm telling you, that right there, just getting young men to a place to tap back into that true self,
Yeah,
brother. You look at a lot of stuff, and I've never thought about that, man. Putting him in a survival mode where he can tap into that deepest part of himself.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes,
It'll
it's
it'll
part of
instantly heal stuff.
yes, it's part of the program that I put together. I want to have 3 days where you take these young men. So and I'm not going to have these young men do anything I haven't done myself. I took
Mm-hmm.
myself on a vision quest about 2 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that don't know, a vision quest is where you go. It's supposed to be a sacred land, but I just found somewhere in the middle of Texas, drove my car, and I walked for about 10 miles. I just walked, and you draw a 20-meter diameter circle. And you just stay there for 4 days, no food, no water. You just stay there, and at the end of that, at the end of that 4 days, you're supposed to have a vision. It's a Native American rite of
Mm-hmm.
passage, but at the end of that 4 days, you're supposed to have a vision. And so I wouldn't put these kids into any position that I hadn't put myself in, right,
No
to
doubt.
survive. And again, once you get to that point of surviving, you tap into something inside of yourself that's like, man, there's nothing out there that can stop me.
Yeah,
There's
I can
nothing out there
imagine.
that I can't accomplish, and not even just accomplish, but that I can't handle. And getting to that point as a young man, man, you're building kings at that point. You're
Yeah,
building warriors at that point, and that's what
yeah.
we're looking for.
I
Dang.
love that.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
I love that. And, I'm really loving the back and forth. Some of the comments, being in nature is tapping into the source. Lex, which I loved your comment, Lex. You said, I think this is extremely important. As a single mother of 2 boys, now my estranged husband is still very present in their lives, and that's good. Night 23X, he says, count me in. I think he wants to be your 8th man.
We'll
Let's
talk.
see. A form of Boy Scouts would help with correct leadership. That was from B. Felt.
Mm.
And then Bronze Star says electrons from the earth are healing, grounding.
I agree. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
So a part of this healing process, you know, is also having to address inner demons. And this question isn't really just for men. It can be for women too, because full disclosure, I have gone through this as well. But what would you tell men that have experienced trauma, like physical and or sexual abuse? How would you tell these men to overcome that kind of psychological damage?
You know, I think, and this is huge in our community, whether it's, you know, psychological, physical. I mean, this is huge. But I would relate it to the same way I talk about, you know, the red pill community. I think first, and you know, and I can't imagine what some, you know, young men and women have experienced. I can't imagine what they would be like, you know, physical, you know, but I think that a person should first dive into it, you know, swim in that negativity. Like there's a healing in that. Like when I talk about guys, you know, going to some of these certain channels where they're talking about, oh, women ain't this, women ain't that. You know, at the point I'm at now, I'm like, brothers, why are you still on this stuff? But brother, I'm telling you, it's healing for a lot of young men. When a lot of young men come out of certain situations, divorce, and they lost everything, they need to hear that. They need to know, you know, they need to know that, hey, I'm not the only one. You know what I'm saying? So I think in any kind of abuse, any kind of trauma, get and swim in negativity for a while and just understand that you're not alone. But the thing is, this is where a lot of people get hung up. They'll stay in that negative energy.
Yeah.
Like you can't stay there.
No.
You know, you have to take that healing and you have to climb out of it. And to be honest, a lot of it is forgiving those that came at you wrong. A lot of it is forgiveness.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand how heavy forgiveness is.
Amen.
A lot of people don't understand that if you don't forgive, you're really still attaching yourself to a thing. You can't release a thing if you haven't forgiven.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're still, you still have that emotional energy tied to it. So I would say, you know, swimming in energy, find like-minded people, identify with it, and then start healing, start coming out of that. And a lot of that is going to be forgiveness.
Amen. Amen. To backtrack off of that, I will kind of say this. You mentioned it, swimming it. I think that one thing I've seen and one thing I noticed about myself that I did do was I sat in it, right? Very hard, and I've noticed a lot of young men nowadays, young women too, when they get to those hurting points, those hurting places in life, right? We all turn to some sort of vice, whether it's you know, drugs, alcohol, sex, even if it's just the company of another person. I recall, and you may have known him, Elliot Holst. I remember listening to him one time, and he mentioned, he was talking about bioenergetics, but the ability to sit in a room with no lights on, no phone, no TV, no computer, nothing, and just sit with yourself is extremely huge. And I say that, you know, with a lot of heaviness to it. Being able to sit with yourself for a second is very big. I think a lot of young men and women don't and can't do that nowadays. We're so distracted and we so need to be around something and need to talk to somebody. Man, the ability for you to sit there for a while is big, and you know, listening to yourself.
Yeah, I agree, man. I was watching, you know, I'm a huge fan and follower of the late Neville Goddard, and I would listen to his lectures for years, and he paused sometimes and said, you know what, let's go into the silence. And I listened to the brother for some years before I understood what he was saying, and I started digging into that. It's exactly what you're saying. You know, for a person to go and just sit still with nothing around them is huge, because now you're hearing those inner thoughts. And when you have a person that has to get in their car, cut the radio on, walk in the house, cut the television on, even some people sleep with a television on, it's because they don't want to hear that voice. They don't want to hear that truth. They're running from it. So to sit in it and call it what it is and embrace it, whether it's good or bad, man, it's healing, man.
Amen. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Very much so. And you guys in the chat room, how many of you guys have taken a moment in your life to sit in the silence?
Mm,
Even what Abdul was talking about, sitting in that dark room, no lights, no phone, no nothing. How many of y'all have ever done that? And what has been your experience with how it's helped you heal? We want to read your comments.
I agree. I agree. It's huge. I remember a quote. I don't know where it was from. I apologize for this, and I am paraphrasing, so forgive me. But it went something along the lines of if you place a thief into a prison cell that's 5 feet by 5 feet,
Mm.
they'll go crazy or curse at the walls, curse at the guard, go crazy. If you place a monk inside of that same prison, 5 feet by 5 feet, he'll say thank you
Mm.
just for putting him in that peace. And it's something that was profound to me because
Mm.
it meant being able to sit in that means a lot. Like, how comfortable are you inside of your own space, inside of your own self? Once you can get to that point, I feel like you can kind of conquer a lot.
Yeah, that's huge, man. It's all, I guess it's all about perspective, man. Like how are you viewing the world? Are you viewing it from externally or from an internal place, man?
I
Like
agree.
once you live inside, like man, there's a piece to that, man. I like that, bro.
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
gonna use that, bro.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
Abdul, I'm
heavy.
about to
I
steal
like
that
that, bro.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
go
like that.
for it. Go for it.
I'm
Go for it.
definitely about to. Definitely about to steal that.
Mm.
Ambition Chaser says it's amazing. I usually look at the clouds and be present. It helps me relax and to be focused. C.S. Croft says when in meditation and prayer, nothing is on.
Good.
Play me
Good.
some pimpin'. This name. I try to do that once a day. How
Mm,
about you? I
mm,
try to meditate and have full silence at least once a week to answer your question.
mm.
And Lex says, I have to be honest, when I first went through my dark shadow of the soul, I did this and it was scary. I'm still working on that.
Mm. I agree.
Mm.
I agree.
And then
Mm.
Night 23X says, I did it in the woods, no tech outside of a pocket knife and nature, which led me to building bow and arrows from sapling trees and twining.
Mm. Mm. I like that.
That's dope.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Build us
Yeah.
some furniture, brother.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
So, and you did kind of already touch on it, Soul, but going back into the forgiveness,
Hmm.
would you say this also extends into people that have harmed you emotionally, psychologically, financially? Would you also say that you should forgive all of those people too?
It's a must for me. It's a must, but because like I said, like, it's almost like they still have a power or authority or connection to me if I don't. Because if I don't forgive, that means I'm still emotionally connected to them. And emotion is creative energy. You know what I'm saying? So for me to forgive is when I'm finally able to forgive it and release it and go my own way. I've been in situations, mainly, I've been in a relationship. Um, a trauma bonded type relationship. And we would be together for maybe a year or two, separate, come back, and we did a decade of this.
Mm.
And I was
Wow.
like, and to be honest, it was the anger that was actually bringing me back to her. I was still calling that my truth. But once I said, you know what, man, I've gone through trauma. That's why it's my truth. She's gone through trauma. That's why it's her truth. Let me forgive myself and forgive her. And I'm telling you, that's when I was finally able to turn my back and go my own way.
Yeah.
So I think forgiveness is it's a huge part of healing. It's a huge part of stepping into the new you and releasing the old.
Yeah. So
Mm.
let me ask you a question, man.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned forgiveness.
Mhm.
Explain a little bit on how and what it means to forgive yourself.
You know,
Mm. I
and
love
I
that.
can use that example. Like when I say forgive myself, like man, like there's a part of me, like my relationship to women. I'll just be, straight up like over the last even 15 years, I've dated women and just due to my trauma, which I wasn't calling it that at the time, in my mind back when I was doing all these wrong things and just moving wrong, I was always quick to point the finger, but long story short, I was moving wrong. So I had to, I had to acknowledge. First, I had to do is go back to the root of why I was doing this. I was like, what did I see in my childhood that made me call this right or make me move like this. And once I said, what I'm doing is wrong, I had to forgive myself. I just had to forgive myself. I said, you know what? I just have to create a new version of me. I had to
Right.
just step into that new me and forgive myself, man.
Right. And I always like to paint this picture of
Mm-hmm.
The people that can kind of get under your skin the most, your family, maybe a significant other. What would it be like for them to continuously pound you with things that you had made a mistake on in your life? Recant that in your head. Go over that over and over again. And once you can get to a point of having whoever it is that can get under your skin the most, give that to you. In your mind, of course. That's when you're forgiving yourself. That's when you say, okay, I'm forgiving myself for that. I'm good. It's literally giving yourself grace. I don't think, especially our men, I don't think we do that enough with ourselves. I think we beat ourselves up a lot for the things that we don't do correctly. I know in one of the last shows we talked about being very stoic. Us men are not, I don't care what anybody says. That is not something of today. All right. It's outdated in my opinion to a small degree. And so I think not having that stoicness all the time, you need to find a way to forgive yourself for not having it. Because I think a lot of men kind of beat themselves up for that. So,
when I watched last week's show, when you spoke about that was a new term to me. I'm not gonna lie, man. I heard you speaking about it, and hearing you speaking about it, I learned more about it. I went on YouTube and did a little bit more research. So now I understand what you're saying. But for me, as far as how to keep people coming and getting under my skin about the whole forgiveness, to me it comes back down to the hierarchy, man. Like when I put myself, when I put nothing in between me and my source, it's like nothing else below that matters. I can ask for forgiveness. I can try to right my wrongs. I can forgive others. But after that's done, after I put that spill out, then whatever y'all are dealing with is what y'all are dealing with. It's no longer on me because there's nothing else above me but the source. So everything else just falls below me, man.
Amen. I agree with that.
I love that. And a very important aspect of forgiveness is doing so knowing that you may never get the closure from the person who did wrong to you. You may never get the closure. You may never get the apology. They may never even feel sorry about what they did, but it's still having to choose to forgive them and yourself regardless.
Yeah. And I think when you forgive, it really doesn't matter if they do or not, because forgiving is really, it's for my understanding. Forgiving is really just it's for me. It's for me to release. So that person that did you wrong, they still may be vibrating in that energy. You know what I'm saying? Just like I forgive you, whatever you're doing is what you're doing. That was for me to go my own way now.
I agree.
Right.
Don't go back. You don't need that closure. Let it go.
Yeah, don't need closure. That was my closure.
Forgiveness is for you. I want to, if you can, Vicky, I wanted to answer a question, and I know this will probably roll into our part 2, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it because we're kind of ending our time. But Lex asks, should new couples go to couple therapy and address their past traumas before getting too serious? So why don't you swing at that just real quick before we hop into our next episode?
What do you think about that, Soul?
I think this is my thing. I think it's crucial. I was just telling some brothers the other day, I'm not sure what I was on, but I was like, man, when you're entertaining these women, you're meeting a new woman for the first time and y'all are having all this small talk, like you need to be having some real conversations. I mean, yeah, you want to know what her hobbies are. You want to know what she's like, but you want to know what her childhood was like. You want to know what she saw. You know what I'm saying? Were you in a single parent household? Were you adopted? And I don't think it's important to ask that stuff just to say, okay, red flags, now I'm out.
Yeah.
But everybody has some kind of damage. I think you need to ask those questions just so you know how to address that person. So when you see certain traits, you can say, okay, you know what? I know why you're doing that now. And let me try to, let's try to mitigate that, But I think to answer the question, going to therapy before proceeding to marriage, whatever, I think it's crucial. Because once you get in that third, I'm telling you, I've had conversations with women and I thought they were real conversations. But once we got that third party involved, I feel like I could be in a little bit harder now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that it's healthy. It's healthy to have that third person, where you can speak to someone where they can hear you. It's
I
just
agree.
there's a different element of communication with that, man.
I
For
agree.
me.
Man, look, 100%. Get your ass in therapy. I don't care who you are. Go get some work in, man. Like,
Man.
look, again, I don't think there's anybody out there, and I've said this before, that is unscathed. Everybody has something, right? Even if you grew up in a nice home, mom and dad still together, everything's great. I don't care what you say. You have some shit in you, and
Yeah.
especially in today's society. So
Yep.
get your ass in therapy. Go take care of that stuff. I mean, I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't do, and am not doing myself. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in therapy to this day. So 100%. Go get some work done, man. We all need it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I actually wanted to address one more question I saw in the chat. C.S. Croft says, is forgiveness giving that offense more attention than needed?
No.
Man.
No. I don't think so. And I'm sorry. I'm gonna answer before you do
No,
so.
feel free, brother, because I'm with you.
No, I don't think forgiveness is giving it too much attention. I think that those are traumas that you need to address, right? And I don't think there's any trauma out there that, let me say this lightly, that you can give too much attention to, right? If it's still cognizant in your mind, if it's something that's present over and over to you, if you're a self-reflective individual, then that stuff will come up, whether it's your children, your parents, your significant other, your friends, that stuff is going to show. And so finding a way to forgive that person and forgive yourself, or forgive the situation as a whole, right? Maybe it was just, circumstances that you didn't have any control of, right? Forgiving your creator for something that you feel was their fault, right? As an example, cancer. Some people feel that that's God's fault, right? Whatever the case may be, if it's still there, it's something you need to find a way to give some forgiveness to. So, always find.
I think, just kind of piggyback. I think to ignore it, to ignore it is just saying, you know what, I would just want to hold this weight for the rest of my life, and that's torture. That's torture. So yeah, so I mean, addressing it is a must.
Right. And let's be clear, forgiveness not being, I have to speak to that person. If that person hurt me, I don't have to talk to you about about the forgiveness. It's just, that's something I do on my own. Forgiveness is for you. Again, like Soul mentioned, that's for you. That's not for the other person. That's for you to let go of that stuff. So
yeah.
Right. And I can tell from the chat that you guys are really touching a lot of hearts tonight. So it's so dope. I love it. So my last question, just for myself, is there something in y'all life that you are currently going through the process of forgiving someone else for?
Whew.
Man.
We got to get personal. Oh shoot!
Why not? Let's screw it. Let's do it.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'll go first. You know what, man? I'll say this. like I can easily say, man, that my father, man, even in 12 years of my life, gave me so much intel that made me who I am now. Like, I don't know how he crammed that in 12 years. But I'm just now, within the last year, maybe 2 years, I'm just now forgiving him for the negative that he did. I focus so much on the positive. There were a lot of things that my dad did that jacked my head up, to be honest, man. And I just rolled it out, trying to only focus on the good. But that bad was always lingering, and it was making me make moves that I shouldn't have been, So I had to just, have that spiritual conversation with myself and with him, and call it what it was. Say these things were jacked up, but hey, I'm like, you were a man, and move forward. And I'm telling you, once I did that, my whole world changed. But it took a lot for me to even look that direction, because I always felt that energy, but I didn't want to look at it, But man, yeah, I had to forgive my father. As high as I speak about him, a lot of stuff that he did, or a few things he did, man, damaged me as well, man.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. Since we're getting personal, I'll go ahead and talk about it. I'm definitely still forgiving my parents. They're still alive to this day. They're still alive. They're still in my life, and they're big forces in my life. And they both have taught me really good things in my life. One of the things I give my parents credit for is they didn't teach me what to think. They taught me how to think. And that was one of for that, right? But I will say, like Soul, there was some damage there on both their parts that I'm still trying to find a way to forgive. I'm still trying to forgive my siblings for some trauma, just to be honest with you. I'm still trying to forgive past relationships. I'm still trying to forgive white folks for the shit they do. So it don't matter across the board. There's trauma across the board. So I think we're all always in that process of trying to forgive things, and it's just I don't think it has an end to it. It's a forever thing, and we all just kind of need to focus on working on it every day.
I love that. As for me, it's taken me a while to get to this point, but I have a few people in the chat that have known me a long time, so they have seen like my transformation, but I'm still kind of like in the process of forgiving my former stepdad. I experienced a lot of trauma through him because, Abdul, my dad is deceased.
Yep.
And I experienced a lot of trauma once he was no longer in the picture. Abuse and also psychological damage because he was the type of man that idolized white beauty. So growing up where this is supposed to be the man of the house, and I never felt enough. I didn't like my skin, my hair, Like I also grew up in a time where a lot of the women, because the women in my family biracial, but they're like only I had the super kinky hair. Everyone else had the very loose mixed girl hair, so I never liked my hair. There was always chemicals in it. I just never thought I was a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
So it took a long time to start undoing that damage and to stop putting chemicals in my hair and to think there's nothing wrong with just plain brown eyes. And, so it's like having to deal with all that and then seeing how it affected how I behaved in relationships, being very passive, never speaking, always putting the man's desires above your own. Doesn't matter what you want. It's all about what he wants. So just a lot of shit that like, even now I notice in my long-term relationship has affected that because there was in the beginning, I was terrified of becoming a mother. I didn't want kids because I'm like, I'm just going to fuck it up. So it's like all those things. And now I feel like for the first time in my 30s, I'm at a place where I feel like more peace with myself. I literally do forgive him because I feel like if we were in the same room today, I could still speak. And once upon a time, I probably couldn't have did that. I probably would have had like a panic attack. But I do feel that even though I've never gotten the I'm sorry, that I really have forgiven him for it. For everything. So
that's powerful. That I can see how that can leave a scar,
Absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah.
And we've had those conversations, Vicky, and I will say from the outside looking in, kudos to you because I know you've done a lot of work, and no matter what anybody says, you are beautiful. So we appreciate you as men.
Thank you.
I want to say how important you are, how important your voice is to us, to give us that feedback. So absolutely.
Right. But I just wanted to share that piece because there may be somebody in the chat that has the same story I have because there's a lot of things, there are a lot of details I'm not sharing. It's not about me tonight, it's about men, but there's some people that be like, damn, yes, Vicky, I dealt with that shit too. So just know that like you're not alone and all of us are trying to heal and become better and vibrate on a higher level.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
So with that being said, so that does conclude part 1 of what we have. In part 2, we're going to dive into more of, now we're getting out of childhood and some of the foundational issues, and now we're moving more into how men deal with women in this newer space. Becoming a man, entering manhood part 2, dealing with women, and not only that, how the man's relationship with other men changes as he moves through a purpose-driven life. So we're bringing you back for that, for part 2.
I'm for it.
And yeah,
I'm
I'm
for it.
super excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank y'all so much.
For joining
No,
us
thank you,
tonight.
man. We appreciate you, and I will definitely, we're gonna meet up before I get out of
Oh, yeah.
Dallas for another 2 weeks. So we're gonna
Perfect,
definitely link up.
brother. No rush, man. Thank y'all for having me, man. Thank y'all so much.
Yes, sir, brother.
We love
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Love y'all too, man.
Wow, that was good. Good stuff.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Even more amazing than the first time we had him on.
I agree. That felt good.
So hopefully you guys in the chat, there was something in here that you could take away. And for nothing else, knowing that you're not alone in any of this process. We're all trying to heal together.
Absolutely.
We're all trying to grow together, love together. And if you don't have anyone in your immediate circle that you can talk to, I mean, shit, reach out to one of us, you know?
Absolutely.
Abdul's is literally putting together a program for this exact same thing. So
Absolutely.
if y'all ever have anything you want to ask, just reach out.
Absolutely. And I will follow up by saying I am here. You know, I as a man coming into my elder age, you know, I do see myself as an elder. So I see myself as having all this knowledge and all this information and being able to give it back to the younger boys and young men of our time and hoping that it helps them. I know times are changing, but all that to say, I'm here. So with all, you know, if anything, man, reach out to me. Y'all know where to find me.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, this concludes episode 9 of On the Spectrum, Entering Manhood, Part 1. Join us again next week, same time, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. We're either going to jump straight into Entering Manhood Part 2, or we may switch it up and discuss the opposite end, which is the Divine Feminine.
Ooh.
So you guys don't want to miss it. Be tuned. Ladies, bring your wine, put on your lip gloss, just all the things.
Absolutely.
So we love you, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate you. We'll see y'all next week.
All right. Bye.